the goal that I had was to be able to create fractals and be able to bend them. I wanted to, so that I could form them on a bracelet or on a, to make earrings or to do something where the form could be bent around. Okay. And when I found this technique on YouTube, on Miriam's Nature, it's number 35, she talks about fractals and how you can create these. And she did it on a tile, flat. And so her whole purpose is to figure out a technique, do it, and then she moves on to the next technique. So when I saw that, I went, oh, I could do that on polymer clay, and then I would be able to bend it, and that's great. And so some friends of mine and I did that last year, Betsy and Paula and I, and we created all of these, and then we put it aside. And then this year I decided I wanted to share it with people. And so I got back on to do a little review with Miriam, and I found another one on Jessamine something. She does some videos. And she did it on cured polymer, so it was still just flat. It wasn't curvy. So I thought, okay, when I go to Clayathon, I want to be able to share this with somebody else and be able to make it bendy. So here's how you do it. You take a product called Floetrol, which is what they use in paint to make it, to smooth out the brush marks, and mix that with acrylic paint. And you can use any acrylic paint. It doesn't really matter, but Donna Greenberg started talking about acrylic gouache. It's already a liquid form, and I tried it and I love it, so it makes it easier to mix. So you take some of your acrylic paint, whatever kind it is, cheap, expensive, doesn't matter, and you put some into a container, and then you add the Floetrol to it, and you can mix it to a consistency of maybe 1 part of paint to 2 or 3 parts of Floetrol, depending on how runny your acrylic paint is to start with. Mix it up so it's like cream gravy in the South, and then you're going to take that mixture and pour it on your conditioned piece of polymer clay. The most important part of this technique is to use a pick, because that keeps you from getting any ripples. And you'll be tempted to use a comb, or you'll be tempted to use a palette knife or your little mixing stick, and it won't be the same. Trust me. So you spread it all out, and that's your work surface. All right, now that's going to eventually dry, but it'll probably take about 24 hours. So you have a little time here. The next thing you're going to do is to take India ink, not alcohol ink. And the ones that work the best are Dr. P.H. Martin's India ink and Liquitex India ink. And you're going to take a drop or 2 of that and just put it into a little tray. And I'm going to set up 2 different colors, because that'll be fun. And you always put the tops back on these after you use them. And then you're going to add 91% alcohol. Not 70, but 91% alcohol, and cut that ink so that you've got plenty of alcohol in the mix. Using a stylus, stir it up, and then the magic starts. Straight down, drop it. Straight down, drop it. So I'm picking up a little ink each time.
What tool are you? Oh, you're using a
I'm using a stylus, just a ball stylus.
Okay.
And what happens is the reaction between the ink pushing out, the alcohol really pushing out, and the Floetrol pushing and the acrylic pushing back on it create the little fractals. And the different size, a different size. So sometimes as you're doing this, see, a bigger one, it takes the center will be bigger, the larger the ball stylus you use. The more ink you have in there, the darker the color. And you'll know when you have to add extra alcohol because it stops spreading. Isn't that fun? It's so zen. It can send you to wonderful places. It's beautiful. And that's a really interesting one because it's come out with some really heavy branches, where this one came out with some really tiny branches from the center.
And
look how thick that is.
Is that the mixture?
It's the magic.
That's the magic.
I think because we had more ink in this, and I was nervous. Okay. Okay, now let's see what'll happen here. I'm going to put a little blue in the middle of that one. See what happens. So watch as this one starts to come out, and it will then run. And because Paula Kennedy and I work together all the time, along with Betsy Frazier, the three of us are constantly really pushing the envelope to try to figure stuff out. Paula, who is a master of silver work as well, took a dendrite, a fractal that we made, cut it in half. She took a piece of silver, has made a bezel for it, textured this part of the silver, and now we'll attach a chain to that to make a necklace. So this is one way this could be used. There's a bowl, that's an example of just, you know, I put that over one of those little tiny glass bowls that you get from IKEA using Nicolina Orstrand's, Orson, a tutorial that she does to make the form, but then the blend itself is one that I did. This actually we put through the polymer clay, the pasta machine, and stretched it, as opposed to there's the original of what it looked like. So there's all kinds of things you can do. And you'll notice that the background paint on this one is different because I didn't have any white with me that was the acrylic example of having used interference gold along with the Floetrol as a background. And it just doesn't really do it. Not really do it. This is a great example. This one is a great example of having laid down the acrylic Floetrol combo, shaved some pan pastels and dropped them in, and then done the fractal effect on top of that. And that was because our friend Maureen from Canada said, what would happen if you put some pan pastels in there? And we put just a few shavings in here and they found each other. So they actually moved together in the paint. Now the other key of this is it takes about 24 hours for the Floetrol acrylic mix to dry. So this is not something you can do and then use as a veneer in an hour. Because if you put your finger in it, then it'll make a mess. So this one was done yesterday and it's dry. It was not quite 24 hours ago. Back over here, I'm going to put a little more alcohol in that one. Let's see what happens. This is really cool because look at the color of that brush show coming through. Can you not just see a Ron Lee hockey heart with this? I'm not sure, and I can see my little fractal lines coming through. If you look up fractals online, you find they don't have to be perfect replications of each other into infinity. That's the mathematical fractal. But there are fractals in nature everywhere. The Grand Canyon is a fractal. And in mechanical things, steel cables that hold up bridges are fractals because they're small bundles of cables that have been twisted to make larger bundles of cables and they become stronger. And I just, for some reason or another, have found this so interesting.
Are you an engineer?
No, girl, no. I was a coach and a PE teacher in my first life, and then I got into medical sales. But I am married to a scientist.
Can you tell she's a salesperson?
And a teacher.
Yes.
But this is glorious right here. And look at this is a natural fractal that brush show did all by itself. Okay? We didn't do anything. We didn't touch that. And it's the brush show that's sea green that we just sprinkled on there, which has a sort of an ochre color. It sat down, it got watery, which is what you got to do to brush show, right? And it, look at that, it spread out in
Now,
almost
you
an
didn't get water,
identical
you
color.
used alcohol, right?
I didn't do anything
Oh,
on
you
that.
didn't do anything. It's
We
just
didn't do
setting.
anything. That's just sitting on the acrylic Floetrol mix.
Cool.
That was it. That was great.